Today, on our first episode of the new monthly series on the podcast, Coach's Corner, where I discuss different topics and answer your questions with other incredible women in the coaching industry. My first guest for this series is the incredible Gabby. Gabby is the owner of Ambito Photography. She's also a manifestation coach and the host of the podcast Fucked If I Know. Hello, Gabby. So excited to chat with you.
Thank you for having me. I feel a bit special, number one, a bit fancy.
I know. Well, you were the first person that came to my head because I was like, I don't know, we're just totally on the same vibe, and yeah, and it's funny because we've never even met.
I know, but it fully feels like we have, like, literally, it's just so funny how the world brings people together, isn't it? We just ended up landing in each other's like DMs, and here we are.
Here we are, always like, oh my god, you're nailing it.
I know, it's the best. We're like each other's number one fucking fan is my favorite.
Literally, it's amazing. First of all, we'll let everyone get to know you a little bit, and then we'll dive into some topics. So why don't you introduce yourself, because you have a lot of strings to your bow. I mean, you're also learning violin, so that literally.
Very relevant.
So why don't you tell everyone a bit about what you do?
Yeah, so obviously you've given me an introduction already, but I'm a photographer, I'm an educator of new photographers, I'm a manifestation coach, I'm a bit of a jack of all trades. For me, it's always been the idea of sticking to one career for the rest of my life was just the worst possible thing for me. I'm like, never went to uni, wasn't of an interest to me. And it has kind of progressed into what it is now because of COVID, actually. I was a wedding photographer and boudoir photographer before. I'm living in Scotland at the moment, but I moved back to Australia to honor all these bookings and they all got cancelled. So to refund everyone, had to completely pivot my business, but it ended up being the biggest blessing, as it usually is. And I ended up pivoting the business to being an online educational thing for new photographers. And I'd always wanted to do it, but I just never had the time to facilitate putting a program together. So I ran a 5-day free photography challenge, which led into a smartphone ebook, which led into Ambito Academy, which is today, and began coaching one-on-one with people. And it's just kind of organically grown to what it is now. The podcast was something I wanted to do for ages as well, but I was like, oh, I can't do that. It's too hard. I've got to do this. Rah, rah, rah. It's like a 1.5 year fucking thing, right? I wanted to do this podcast.
I feel that.
Oh, we just like put everything off, like the things we want to do the most. And that's only just come into fruition about a month ago now. And yeah, just everything, my business is basically completely progressed to be into an online space now, which it was all predominantly in person before. So it's been a huge transition in the last year, but I actually really fucking love it. So that's kind of where I am. That's who I am. Yeah.
Amazing. It's funny you say that because I was going to say one of the biggest things that I admire about you is, from what I can hear about your story and stuff online, is that you see a problem or something changes and you just act on it. You fix the problem, or even like one of your podcasts you spoke about your old jobs. You're just like, this isn't feeling right, and so you did something about it. A lot of people just stay in those jobs and in those situations for so long. And like with starting your photography academy, that was because, right, all your cancellation, all
Yeah.
your bookings were gone, and you're like, right, what do I do? I think
Yeah.
that's cool.
Thank you. I've always been very lucky. Like my mum has always been like such an inspiration in that sense, where she was like, if you want to do something, then you can just go and do it. And I think a huge part of that for me was, like as a society, we think that we have to do the one thing forever, or everything looks a certain way. And if you look at it, that's like the general pattern of society is you get the job, you get married, you have the babies, you buy the house, and then that's kind of your life. And so when you break out of that pattern, it feels really uncomfortable and really weird. But I think because when I left high school, everyone in high school went to uni and I didn't. I think that was just such a rewarding experience and like such a huge lesson for me to go, whatever, just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean that I have to do it. Like I had when you're fucking 17, like how do you know what you want to do for the rest of your life? Like no one knows. I still don't know, So
It is crazy.
So crazy. So I'm so lucky because my mum was always like, again, not against the status quo, like she did, very similar stuff, but she was just like, do whatever you want. And that really, I guess it influences everything that I do now. And if there is something different, or there is a problem, or not even a problem, but just I want to do it differently, or that doesn't sit right with me, that doesn't resonate with me, it feels weird in my body and my soul, I'm like, I don't want to spend my life wasting time doing something that doesn't light me the fuck up. So yeah, nicer tribute to have.
Exactly. And you really have done a bit of everything, right? You've done several different jobs, and it just shows also like you can change your mind and you can try different things and then just keep working it out. I feel like everyone, like you said, they feel like they need to find that one thing and that's going to be it for the rest of their lives. But, you know, we can be multi-talented, multi-skilled and just give things a go for a
A little
season, you
bit.
know, in your
Yeah.
life.
That's so true. People get so hung up on, oh, well, I've decided to do this, so I'm doing it forever now. And like, what? Like, who said you had to do that? I read this really great thing in a book the other day called like the sunk cost fallacy. Have you heard that?
No, I don't think so.
So basically, like, I'll probably butcher it, but in a nutshell, it basically says that, you know, people invest a bunch of time or energy or money into something. They find out that they don't like it and they decide, well, I've spent all this money, time and energy, so I may as well just keep doing it. So, you know, people go to
Mm,
uni for 6 years to do law or medicine. They get to the end, they go, actually, I really don't want to do this, but I've been in it forever, so I may as well stay. It's like, that's literally the worst thing that you could do because you've just spent 6 years trying to figure it out. All right, you realize you don't like it. Why the fuck would you stay longer? Why would you stay? And you know, and people do that. And you hear stories about people in maybe generations before us that they stay in law or, you know, medicine or whatever for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, get to the end and then realize, oh, I should have done something different. And that's so much more of a loss than the initial 6 years. So that's been such a driving force for myself. And like, I assume same for you as well, Georgia, like, oh, you know, just because I did it for a short period does not mean that I need to do it forever. I'd rather just cut my losses now as like a bad investment. But is it, it's never even really bad, is it? Because it's a learning, and go
mm-hmm.
off and do something different. Just fucking change it.
Exactly. I think that was my boyfriend screaming at his game a second
Oh,
ago.
is he?
So
I couldn't hear him. What's he playing?
League of Legends.
Incredible.
Classic. It's like, shut up.
Shut up, we're recording a podcast, mate.
With the most sensitive mic ever.
Oh, bless.
Yeah, totally. And I think that also in the creative industry and the performing industry that I was slash am still in, the in the pandemic that really made people either like there was that whole you should retrain thing and that really hit people hard, and I get that you shouldn't be told to retrain in something you've done your whole life, but is there something else you enjoy? Is there something that you can put your energy into and still use the skills that you've worked so hard for in the years to come? Like, though coaching isn't performing, it's
Mm.
still, you're still showing up and showing off yourself in a different kind of way, and I think it's just like seeing it as that you're always going to take the skills into the next thing you do as well.
Yeah, that's right. And as you said, being a performer in particular, then even though it doesn't seem directly related to being a coach, like you are at the forefront of your business, like your face is at the front of your business. So there's so much that comes from that, learning how to speak publicly. Like that's a huge part of performing. So it is. And that's the thing, is it's like you never, even if you feel like you were cutting your losses for something that isn't working, it doesn't mean that you didn't take something from that and implement it into a forward job. I think
Mm-hmm.
every job that you have or every experience that you have just adds like an extra tool into the tool belt that you take forward. Like, you know, I couldn't be in the position that I'm in now had I not gone through, you know, a photography difficulty on myself, or, you know, can't coach people on that if I don't know what that feels like. So it's all part of the experience and it all adds up, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I don't even know why I bother writing questions because I end up just going off on these tangents. But I'm learning about human design right now, and my energy type is a manifesting generator. And it just made me feel understood because it's like multi passionate, multi whatever kind of people that are here to do many things in the world, and that I do something passionately for a while and then I'm just kind of over it and I want to do something else and that fills me up for a while, and it just like made me feel okay with that. And it was saying that it's like a game, you know, you finish level 1 and then you move on to level 2. You don't feel sad that level 1's done because you've learned a lot and you'll take those skills into level 2. And I was like, yes, that is how I feel.
Oh, that's amazing. I think I'm the same. Like I did this ages ago, but I can't remember what I am. And it's so in at the moment, isn't it? Everyone's talking about
Mm-hmm.
human design. It's so like popular in the woo. But yeah, I think I'm the same because I get so excited and passionate about stuff, and then I'm like, meh. Like you get
Yeah,
$1 million ideas, and you're like, nah, like too
actually
much
I'm
effort
over it.
now. Yeah, I'm over it. Like here's my next $1 million idea. Someone's gonna come up
Exactly.
with the ideas though. That's why there's other human design, so they can take the ideas and like take them to fruition. God bless those people.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. We're all here for a reason.
Yes, I love it.
Um, so another thing that I love about you and admire about you is that you are so authentic, and that you know, I think that's part of why you're so magnetic online, because you're just yourself and you're relatable. And it seems that you just don't give a fuck, you know, you're just like, you're just you. And I love the way that even naming the podcast, Fucked If I Know, you were like, I'm going to put fucked in it because if somebody doesn't like swearing, they ain't going to want my podcast, you know, you're not, you don't belong here.
Yeah.
So was that like a process throughout your life, or do you feel like it kind of comes naturally to you to just like be yourself, or is it something you've had to work at?
I think like I mean I still do give a fuck what people think. You know, I think anyone who says that they don't is a liar, because we
Totally.
all are worried, even if it's not like the masses of people, there's always somebody that you're like, oh, I'm worried about that person's opinion, or I care about what that person thinks. I think you're like, you maybe don't even have a soul, right? If you don't give a shit what anybody else thinks. There's always
Literally.
a degree. There's always a degree of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like I'm still working through that at the moment. I still meet resistance of, oh, I want to share this online, but I don't want to rock the boat, or you know, I have a beautiful community. I don't want to just, you know, throw stones in the water for the sake of it and like piss people off. So it's a fine line between being authentic and being yourself. And I think particularly when you are like online and people come to you for inspiration, I come to you for motivation or whatever, that you, yeah, I don't want to rock the boat on purpose. You know, I don't want to piss people off
Mm-hmm.
for the sake of it. But, and I'm still coming into that. I'm still learning that. And like, you know, there was, you know, I did this story a little while ago about us leaving Edinburgh for a few days because of
Oh
COVID.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I knew it was going to piss a few people off. I knew it would, because we decided to get out of town because I was really fucking struggling. And as someone who has a very good mental health and a very strong mindset, for me to be struggling, I'm like, this is bad. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, and I'm sure you feel the same way, when we are people who inspire others and motivate others to feel good, I'm literally doing my whole community such a disservice by not being able to show up as my fullest self. So we took ourselves away for 3 days, literally more isolated in the Highlands than we were in Edinburgh. And I felt a lot of guilt over what people would think. And I'm like, fuck, what are people going to think? You know, I'm going to get cancelled on the internet. I'm absolutely shitting it. And then I started speaking to a couple of friends, you know, like privately saying, did I do the wrong thing? You know, and seeking approval and
Mm-hmm.
acceptance of this. And the more I spoke to people, and then people I didn't know, they were like, no, you so did the right thing. Like I would do the same thing. And the more people started popping up going, actually, I did the same thing, but I didn't want to say it to anyone. So there is so much. So I thought, you know what, I need to share this with people, because on top of us all feeling like shit in lockdown, you've now got people feeling guilty for having to take care of their mental health because they're worried that they're letting the world down by not sticking to these crazy rules. And by me sharing that, like, I felt like I liberated myself a little bit, because I'm
Yeah.
like, fuck, no, I did the right thing for me in that time, and I can show up and be of service to everyone else now, which is where I am best of service to people. And you know, I had people unfollow, and I had people be like, I don't think you did the right thing. I'm like, cool, that's fine. And people who really fucking resonated and were like, oh, thank you so much for sharing this, because I was really struggling with guilt on top of lockdown blues and everything. And so it's really been probably in the last couple of months that I've really stepped into my authenticity and into, this is who I am. And the thing is, like, nobody's wrong or right,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's an opinion, and it's what we believe is wrong or right. There's always going to be someone who agrees. There's always going to be someone who disagrees, and you can't please the fucking world. So for me, I try to focus on the people who do give a shit about me, and the people who do value my opinion. And that's, you know, I got this, my first ever coach taught me this really great thing, and it was like the rule of thirds. It's like a third of people will love you, a third of people will hate you, and a third of people won't give a shit about you. Like they do
Mm.
not have my radar. And it was so liberating to hear that, because I'm like, oh, all I have to do is focus on one third of these people and
Yeah.
making, like, you know, and they will be a magnet for me. And the thing I've learned more as well in being authentic and showing up and just being my fucking truest self is that you are a massive magnet for the right people and a huge deterrent from the wrong people, which
Yeah.
is fine by me. I'm like, fuck off, like, not my circus, not my monkeys. Like, I don't want these people in my vibe. So I still meet it, but I think it's just almost a muscle. Like the more I practice it, the more it reaffirms to me that it's the right thing to do, to speak my truth where I think it's appropriate and where I think it's helpful and beneficial to others, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. And it is a
Yeah.
vulnerable thing to do because you are essentially putting yourself out there for judgment, you know, or but in the same hand, well, I can't even speak English anymore apparently. In the same sense, then you're gonna get people who are gonna be like, oh, thank God somebody said that because I just needed some
Different.
validation from somebody else and yeah, reassurance.
Exactly.
Um and like we were speaking about before we started recording, like last week we were both feeling tired, depleted, all the things. And it's realizing that as a coach or somebody in this industry, when your energy is what you're giving to people, essentially you as a person, what you can help them with, if you're not in the best place yourself, then you're not of service to anybody. So it's doing whatever,
That's
feels right for you, whether it
yeah.
is coming off social media for a week or something like that, because it does take a lot of your energy. And sometimes, you have to realize we are in a pandemic. I'm not a like superhuman who doesn't have, these feelings of being locked up or whatever, they're just human like everybody else. And yeah, I think like sharing that is really helpful.
Yeah. Do you find that like when you share as well with your audience and you are more authentic and more, this is just how I'm fucking feeling, that as well you get way better engagement too. Like your Instagram engagement is so much better because people are
Yeah.
like, oh, you're very relatable. And that's like, do you find that as well as a coach? The more that you're like super honest, the more you get like a better response from people?
Totally. And like at the end of the day, people want somebody that they can relate to and see themselves in a little bit. And if you're portraying yourself as this perfect human who never has negative emotions or never feels like a bag of shit, and they're gonna be like, she's a bit too much for me. Like that's what I get like. I'm like, oh, I don't know. It's a like, where's your realness? Where's your humanness?
Yeah, people can connect with you so much better when they realize it. And it was probably, I wonder if you had the same feeling, George, like when you started coaching, was that you felt like you had to be on all the time and that you weren't allowed an off day. And, you're like, oh God, I'm not a very good coach if I get coaching myself, or if I have shit days, or if I don't know how to answer a question. But it is your humanness that makes people want to work with you. Like if you look at a coach who seemingly has a perfect life, you can sniff in authenticity from a fucking mile away.
Yeah.
You don't have shit days, or like you don't look shit some days. I'm like, not buying that. Like,
Hmm.
you're a fucking robot. Like,
Totally. And that's still a process for me, honestly. I catch myself doing it where I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do an Instagram story because, I look like shit today or whatever, and I'm like, who cares? My message is still going to come across whether I'm in my dressing gown or if I'm, dressed up.
mm,
Um, yeah. And I think people just relate to it better. But it's like you said, it's giving yourself permission to take rest as well and not be perfect.
yeah, exactly. It's so much fucking more liberating to just be a human being.
Totally. So, what would you advise someone who feels like they struggle to just like be themselves, or, they're lacking in self-confidence in that way?
I think the best thing, like, because it's so hard to just say, like, be authentic. And authentic, again, is such a fucking buzzword. Like, what does that even mean? Like, what is
Just
authenticity?
be yourself.
Be yourself. You're like, great, who is that? Like, what does that even fucking mean? And particularly because we are influenced by people we see online. Like, I know, particularly at the beginning even of my photography career, I would show up online as who I think people want me to show up as. And in my business, I'm like, what professional is supposed to look like as a photographer? I wear the black and white to weddings, and I wouldn't have a drink with the groom and the bride, and like, at the end of the night. And it was, yeah, just this realization of actually, you get to decide what's professional, you get to decide what's authentic. And I think the best way to figure out like who you are, or what is authentic to you, is to focus on your weirdnesses. Focus on the shit that makes you you. What lights you the fuck up, what makes you really happy. Maybe like super into baking, or like anime or cosplay. Or I love people's weirdnesses. I love watching people light the fuck up about the stuff that makes them really passionate. When you get yourself onto a topic that you just cannot stop talking about, and you just froth over it, and you, like us with manifestation, you could sit for
Mm-hmm.
hours and hours talking about it. When you get someone on that topic, that's when they light up. That's when you see their real self, their authenticity. So my advice to people is, when they're feeling a bit scared to show up, is to focus on your weirdnesses and just get talking about your passions, because it's going to be effortless for you to speak about it, because you know it so fucking well. And to remind yourself that when you show up as your truest self, as your weirdest, most wonderful self, you give other people permission to do it. And that
Mm-hmm.
is so powerful for people to go, oh, because of you, I felt that I could froth over anime publicly and I made the greatest friends from it. Or, that I was really into pole dancing and I didn't want to share that with anyone, but since I have, I found this beautiful community. So I just think, if all else fails, if you can't focus on how it's going to make you feel, I think as human beings, we're so hell-bent and like wired to please other people, that if you can focus on, I give other people permission to shine bright when I shine, it's
Mm-hmm.
sometimes easier to focus on that than it is on yourself. Like, what do you think? Do you feel the same way?
Totally, absolutely. And I was thinking about I think about the sort of people that I connect with, and I
Mm.
connect with people who are authentic and they're flawed and they just show themselves. And like even certain authors, like the author you've recommended to me, Denise,
Oh, Denise Duffield Thomas.
yeah,
She's the tits.
and Jensen Chero and stuff, they're so like raw and real. And you know, in the coaching industry, you see like how to get 100K a month, and you just feel like people are achieving all these things, but hearing how they got there and what they went through and that, it makes you just like feel
I've,
better about yourself. You're like, oh, okay, you went through that too. It's not just me. That's what it is. It's not just me. And it gives yourself permission to, you know, just try new things and then so-called fail, but it's never a failure. You're just learning from it.
yeah,
And yeah, just hearing other people have gone through the same thing gives you permission to do it. Just like you said, it allows somebody else to say, oh, if she can do it, you know,
I
maybe
can
I
do.
can.
And I love seeing people's like shit storms. You know, I love hearing how things did not go well. I'm like, oh, thank the fucking Lord, thank God, like something,
Mm-hmm.
you know, didn't go well for you. I remember in Jen's book, did you read You're a Badass at Making Money?
Mm-hmm.
Right, that she got herself in like $87,000 of debt to take a course because she's like, fuck it, I need to light my fire under my ass. And I thought that is ballsy. Like to ask a friend for $80,000 to
Yeah.
invest in a course in yourself. Like, I don't think I'd have the audacity to ask somebody for that much money. Like, struggled to ask Billy for money for my fucking laptop when it literally took itself and I had no money. And like, so I just was like, wow, that's so powerful, but just so crazy to see that people do fail and that they experiment. I loved as well with Denise Duffield Thomas that she tried like so many businesses before she hit the nail on
Mm-hmm.
this is what
Yeah,
I
me
want.
too.
Did she do so many weird things like
All
fucking
throughout her 20s and stuff. It wasn't until she was like in her 30s, I think, that she started to actually, oh, okay, now I think I've got the one.
yeah, I figured it out. I love hearing all the weird shit. Like, and I can relate like so much to that because I've done so many weird things. I'm like, that was a weird thing to do for a while there, but you know, and it just felt really lame. But like it was, you wanted to do it, but you're like, oh, it didn't really work, or people didn't really vibe with it. You start to hit the nail on the head with the stuff that feels authentic. But I think that's part of it is
Mm-hmm.
going through all of those really shitty things. That's what helps you find what authentic is because you know, going back to myself maybe 5 or 6 years ago, saying what I'm doing now, I couldn't even connect the two of how I got there. But it was through these seemingly like failures, you know, that
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, actually, I don't really like doing that, but I like doing this. Oh, I don't like doing that, but I like doing this. And figuring out what you like and being okay with the fact that it can take a while. It can take into your 30s, 40s, 50s until you figure it out. And like, I love hearing stories of like actors and stuff who didn't get their first acting job or find out that they even liked it till they were like 50. I'm like, that's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. That is fucking incredible that they are still like, there's no age limit, you know, there's no time limit. It's just that's all self-imposed and societally imposed on when we should know what we're doing. Like my biggest
Mm-hmm.
gripe is the high school thing of you are told every single day what to do and then all of a sudden it switches and you should know exactly what you want to do for your life and you're like what
Mm-hmm.
the fuck, like that pressure on teenagers is so immense, puts
Yeah.
them in debt, puts them in fucking anxiety and stress doing something that they hate. I'm like, just let them go do life for a little bit and fuck up for a little bit. That's way more fucking beneficial to them than being like, choose your career at 17. That's mental.
Yeah. And you just don't know like if you're actually gonna like something until you start.
Hmm.
And like speaking of the Badass at Making Money book, that was the one that made me invest in my coaching course.
Was
Because
it?
at one point in the book I was listening to it, I remember where I was, I remember I was walking the
Oh, at
dog,
the moment.
literally, and she was like, so that one thing that you keep thinking about all the time that you're scared to invest in, just fucking do it right now, today, go and do it. And I was like, it's like she's talking to me. I've got to invest in this thing. But
I,
I'd never coached before. I'd never done an actual session. So I was like, what if I invest all this money and I don't even like coaching? I think I'll like it. I think it's what I'm meant to do. But it's definitely scary. But if you
you
don't
know,
try, then you'll never know.
and imagine if you didn't. Where the oh, there's my bloody alarm to remind me to post on social media. My bad. Oh god.
I feel
Yeah, like
that.
oh, I have to do it. My brain can't remember all these schedules. Yeah, imagine if you didn't invest in it, like all this that you would have missed out on in your life, not even just career wise, but like where you are now, like where you're living and your partner, and like there's just so much that you could have potentially missed out on without having guidance from somebody else to just give you a kick up the ass occasionally and be like, come on, get on with it.
Totally. And if it is a book, then it's a book. You know, you just hear that one thing from that certain person And also, like you said, because she was so relatable, and like I was like, oh, if she can do it and she's messed up, but she kept going, then why
And you
can't
can do
I?
it. Exactly. Oh, I love the book. I haven't read her other one yet, but it's on the list, on the never-ending list of personal
Is that the
development books.
Badass Habits one or the original
Yeah,
Badass?
just like the You're a Badass one, I think, is the other one, but I haven't. Have you read that one?
But years ago.
Yeah, I haven't read that one,
And then
but
I've
it's
got
amazing.
your Badass Habits now. I started that one, but I've not finished it.
Amazing. She's such a good writer. She's so easy to read. I feel so
Mhm.
like beat up after I read her books.
Totally. No, she's amazing.
Mm.
Um, okay, let's get into some manifestation.
Well, off to what?
So I think that getting started in manifestation is one of the like hardest things for people. They maybe follow people like us and they're like, I really like the idea of that, but they just see it on Instagram and that's kind of as far as they take it. Or it feels a bit intimidating. Like, okay, that works
Mm.
for them, but I don't know, I've never had any spiritualness in my life or anything. I know it's been a process for me. I had to like build up my belief system until now the point where I'm obsessed with it. And obviously I am fully believing in its magic.
Mm.
But what did that process look like for you? How did it start for you? How were you introduced?
Ooh, has introduced. So I actually, the first time I ever sat down with a coach was well before I knew anything about this world or wellness or any of that kind of stuff. And she was just starting out as a coach, and I was kind of like lost and didn't really know what I was doing. And she said to me,
How old were you at this point?
how old was I? I was 22, I think 22, and I'm
Mhm.
27, 28. Fuck, I don't even know how old I am. Oh my God, I'm 28. Oh God, shit. All right. This year doesn't count. This year doesn't count on the age list. Like,
No.
so yeah, I think I was right, 22, 23. And she sat down like on my bed in my room. Her name's Holly. And she just asked me, what would you love to do? Like if you wake up tomorrow, no limitations, what would you just love to do every day? And I just said, take photos and travel. And that was like the like that catalyst moment in my life of
Mm.
starting to just think differently and think like, oh, I can actually have a life that I want. Because at the time I was working in corporate, I was just, doing the grind, just doing normal life kind of stuff. And I just always felt that there was something more and there was something more to life for me.
Mhm.
And I ended up, so I did that one session with her, and then she recommended me the book Mastering Your Mean Girl by Melissa Ambrosini. And that was my first like proper introduction.
Is she
In,
Australian as well?
yeah, she's
Yeah, I
Australian.
thought that.
She was an actress, and I was like, I feel like I like manifesting like performing coaches in my life, and I'm not mad about it. And yeah, and I just read that, and that was like my first introduction into understanding what manifestation was. But for me, I've always considered myself like lucky. I've always won competitions. I literally won a competition where I met Katy Perry like in person, and it was like the fucking greatest thing in my life.
I've
And
hugged her too.
oh, have you really? Fuck, this is so wild. Like, who are we? What is going on?
I know. Well, to be fair, I dressed up as her and was in the front of her concert, and I was like,
Oh my God. Love me. Oh my God. Well, one way or another, you got it. So, pretty amazing.
happened.
It happened. And obviously I always considered myself like I always win competitions. I've always been lucky, but I didn't know what that was. I just thought I'm just a
Mm.
lucky person. And like, not like all the fucking time, but more so than I'd say like a regular person who's, in a bad mindset or whatever. And yeah, and
But
I
you
just started.
also you also believed you're a lucky person.
That's exactly right. But I
Mm.
didn't understand what believing in it did for me. I
Mhm.
just I just thought I'm a lucky person. I just say that, but I wasn't consciously aware of the fact that other people didn't say that or that there was power in that. I never understood the power behind it. And so after I read Mastering Your Mean Girl and started going to a few workshops and just dabbling, I'm like, oh, manifestation. I was like, that's what I've been doing. I've actually
Mm.
been doing this already. And which was a really cool kind of light bulb moment of like, fuck, I'm doing this absentmindedly. Imagine if I put some effort into it. And it didn't really like I didn't really take it seriously for another couple of years after that. Like I still dabbled, I was interested, I got more spiritual. And I think if you're spiritually inclined, you've always had an interest in crystals and practical magic and all of that kind of stuff. You're kind of fascinated by it, and I
Mhm.
always have been. But this was the first time that I really took it seriously and started to implement stuff and read more books and surround myself with like-minded people. And that's when it just really took off. And I read another book called Light is a New Black by Rebecca Campbell.
Yeah, I've read that one.
incredible book. And that was probably the first book that really got into the woo, right? Because
Mhm.
everything else was kind of like more mindset and all this, but this was like the full woo. And there was a section that I read in the book, and I was in Bali on a retreat. Such an eat, pray, love
Love
moment.
that.
It was such a moment. And I read this line that basically said, more or less, if you're trying to manifest and you're trying to attract certain things, you have to be open about it. And I had been very closed closet about it, about like,
Mm.
I didn't want people to think I was weird because I was into the woo and I loved crystals and spirituality. And I literally fell through my chair. The chair broke underneath me when I read this. It
Oh
was
my
so
God.
embarrassing. So embarrassing. Like, eating too much on my holiday.
Literally a breakthrough moment.
It was so embarrassing. Like ass through, like legs up. Oh, it was so embarrassing. And it was just this like moment again of like this light bulb of, I must like honor this. This is something I could talk about for hours and hours on end. Why am I not honoring this? And when I started to share it and be more open with it, that's when the business started to grow more, when it developed into what it is today. And so it's been a long process. And same for you, Georgia. Like
Mhm.
you learn about it, you're like, oh, it doesn't work for me. Like now that I've given it a name, is it legit? Is it true? And it just periodically built up over a lot of time. And I think that's probably what gets people stuck is they're like, oh, I went to one workshop, read one book, I'm trying to manifest, it doesn't work. It's like, no. This is
Mhm.
a lifelong practice, and it will be. You're never going to perfect manifestation, never going to perfect your mindset. It's a lifelong journey. That's probably why people get so, because they see like us manifesting fucking money and manifesting moving overseas in pandemics and like, holy shit, this is massive. But what they haven't seen is all the shit that took us, all the stuff before that got us to the point that we're in now. So yeah, it is a bit of a funny one, but it's just a fucking journey. And I don't think people really understand that.
Totally, yeah, you're right. And they see, well, you have to show what you can do in order for people to be like, oh,
Oh, it's good.
but there is so much more that goes into it, and it's mostly removing all the shit. It's not
Yeah.
about like learning this or learning that. It's getting rid of everything that's been in your way all this time. And
Mm.
I think you actually put in your story today about like it's funny as a coach because what I find is I am focusing on the business and how I can help other people all the time, that I find myself from time to time being like, oh, I've neglected my own like practices or mindset and stuff. And I feel those old habits or old thought patterns creep back in because it is a continuous process. You don't just, like you say, learn it one day and you're like, boom, I can manifest for life. And yeah, the processes, but you need to keep it up and you need to keep on top of your own mindset because that little voice will creep back in and tell you, maybe this is unrealistic
Yeah.
or, whatever it might be for you, whatever your blocks were, they'll creep back in if you don't keep up the work.
Into them. And that's, I think, how it gets you too, because you're feeling really good, you're manifesting, like shit's happening, your business is thriving, and you haven't done the practice, you haven't done the journaling or the meditation, whatever that is, whatever it looks like for you. And then it sneaks up on you. And that was literally me for this last week. I've been in my head, I'm stuck. And I'm sitting there journaling, trying to figure out how to get unstuck. And it was hilarious how simple it was of, okay, we'll just fucking stop saying that you're stuck. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's pretty straightforward. Like
Mhm.
we teach this shit and we still forget it and we still have to come back. But I think the difference is when you have been doing it for a longer time is that you can snap back a lot quicker. Whereas when you start, it is painful, it is
Mhm.
fucking slow. And that's, as you hit the nail on the head of, it's not necessarily about trying to attract, it's trying to remove the stuff that's in the obstacle, because it's already fucking there, isn't it? Like abundance and like all of our opportunities are there, we put the blocks up. And it's so hard. Like it's a simple task in its practicality of changing the mindset, rewriting the belief, but the actual effort is a labor, and it fucking takes time. And people just,
Mhm.
because it's difficult and we're instant gratification fucking society, they just give up on it and they think, oh god, it's too hard, I didn't manifest the $5,000 in a day, so I'm over it. You're like, okay, hold on a second.
Literally.
Wait up a sec, babe.
And I think in terms of coaching it, I think people think they're going to teach me how to manifest, they're going to tell me what to do, and they're going to give me the secret pill, and then I'm going to be able to get anything I want in life. And sometimes when, I do a session with somebody and I'm like asking them these deep questions, making them look within, they're like,
This
oh,
is shit.
this is about me. I thought you were just going to tell me what to do. They're quite like disgruntled about it. I'm like, yeah, that's why you hired me. I'm not going to give you some like magic potion, because it all comes
That's
from
fucking
you at the end of
nothing.
the day. It's your mind.
Yeah, and that's a funny thing, isn't it? Like it is, and one of the easiest things about being a coach is that it just comes back to the person, and it comes back to, well, you're driving the car, like I can change the radio for you and, you know, help you out from the passenger
Mhm.
seat. You must do the fucking work. And that's the hardest bit. Like, do you find that, like, when you do your program or when you do your one-on-ones, that it's a bit like you have to pre-warn them and be like, look, the first few weeks are probably going to be pretty rubbish because we're going to dig through some shit, we're going to be questioning you, like, I promise we'll get there. Like, do you find that with your new clients, like, it's going to be okay?
Totally. It's like, yeah, like you want to have a positive mindset and stuff, but in order to get there, you have to remove all the shit. And I think people so often don't realize how much stuff from their past is actually still there, and it's they need
Mm,
to like let go of it and forgive it and move on from it in order to like get to the next stage of their life, or to start manifesting bigger things into their life. And it can be not very fun, like forgiveness. God, the first time I did a forgiveness exercise, I was bawling my eyes out, and I was like, I don't even cry, but I was like, oh.
right, my feelings. What do you struggle with the most? Like, where, you know, I feel like everyone's got like one thing that they kind of like, oh, that's definitely my block. What do you find like your biggest block is, your reoccurring one?
um, I guess it depends what area of my life it is. I recently the thing I've had is about being young. It's the
Oh,
thing that's like in my head recently that I'm like, sometimes I don't think people are going to take me seriously, but then I'm like, well, that's because you're obviously not taking yourself seriously. And if I keep telling myself that story, then that's just what I'm going to get. But
yeah.
yeah, it's like the age thing, I think, at the moment, that I don't know why, but I guess it's just like trying to step into this businesswoman role, but then also still feeling like, "Oh, I just want to be 24 and not give a fuck sometimes."
Yeah, like wanting to live in both of those fucking feelings, because it is so
Yeah.
much responsibility, particularly when you are coaching. I think people underestimate the level of energy and capacity that you hold for people is so fucking
Mm,
huge. And that's like such a common theme I hear around coaching as well, as like that fear of am I old enough? You know, am
yeah.
I experienced enough? But and I was chatting to somebody today about this, and she said had the same fear, like, you know, who am I to be a life coach when I'm only this old? I'm like, well, we forget that the universe doesn't operate on time and ages, it operates on energy. And you can have 20-year-olds who have had a shit ton more life experience than a 60-year-old has ever had, you know. So it is
Mm-hmm.
always comes back to that. And yeah, meeting that, oh, am I am I experienced enough? Do I know enough? Like, well, I have more experience than this person, so yes, I am entitled to show them how I did it and how it worked for me. So it's really interesting that one catches you up
Mm-hmm.
sometimes.
And then I think about like how much I've helped my mum,
Yeah,
like with her
right.
mindset, and I'm like, she's 53 or whatever. It doesn't matter my age. It's like certain people just aren't introduced to this, and they don't know about it, and they don't know how much of an effect like their mindset and everything can have in their life. So it doesn't matter how old I am relaying that information if I have that knowledge to share, you know.
That's right.
But it's funny the things that our ego and our mind tells us that we start to believe if we don't
She,
if we don't pick up on it.
that's right. Stop it in its tracks.
Totally. So and also what I was going to say is something I try and get across to people, but I don't know how people perceive this, is that you're manifesting all the time, whether
Mm,
you know about manifestation or not. Just like you said in the beginning, for you, you realized, oh shit, I've actually been doing this the whole
yeah.
time, and that's manifesting good things and not so great things. It's just learning how to actually use that in your favor and to consciously manifest. That's what it's about.
That's right. Harnessing the energy and using it for good rather
Mm-hmm.
than manifesting the shit into your life.
Exactly. So do you have any daily manifestation practices, or do you just kind of do things as and when you feel drawn to or feel like you need to, like, oh shit, I'm kind of going down a spiral here? Um, what do you do?
Yeah, so it changes all the time, because I don't like, I'm not a routine person. I really struggle in routine,
Mm-hmm.
which is why lockdown is struggle for me, because people are like, have a routine. I'm like, I fucking hate routine. It makes me feel awful. So I try to operate more on like a rhythm, because for me rhythm means that it ebbs and flows and it changes. So but the one thing that I do very consistently stick to is journaling, because for me, I have to get my brain on paper. I'm a very inward person. Even though I'm very extroverted, I'm very introverted. Like, I recharge being alone. I
Mm-hmm.
don't, um, after a big social occasion, I have to be by myself. And so journaling for me, I know my manifestation practice has gone to shit, or I'm not in the right headspace when I haven't been journaling. So that is like basically a non-negotiable for me, even to the point of if I'm not writing it in my journal, but I'm just word dumping on notes in my phone, or
Mm-hmm.
verbally fucking dumping to somebody and just talking. I need to get stuff out of my head, because the number one, the number one priority when we're manifesting is to be the vibration, is to be the magnet for what we're calling in. And if you're so in your head and full of all the doubt and the worries and the stresses, even to the degree of like, I really want to manifest it, which is just desperation manifesting,
Yeah.
you literally aren't able to do it. So doing that has been, so profound. And I've only in the last 6 months taken it really, really seriously and gone, okay, I just want to see what happens from here. So most of the time when I journal, it's nothing profound. It's just a word dump. So I read in The Artist's Way that they do like morning pages. So three full pages every morning of just rubbish, because it clears your space so that you can be creative. You get your crap out of your head, so you're not dragging it into everything else you do during the day. But again, that was too routine for me. So it kind of like depends on the time of day and how I feel about it. But some days, if I feel like when I manifest, some days I will write down a little list of what I'm consciously manifesting, and I'll write things like, I want to manifest a fresh bunch of flowers and they arrive in 2 days. Or I
Mm-hmm.
did it the other day. I was like, I want an unexpected gift. And 2 days later, my boyfriend bought me this book about fucking cats, like so random. I'm like, well, it worked. And it was
It
really sweet.
worked.
It worked. And people messaged me being like, how often do you do this? Freaking out. And I was like, just when it feels right, when I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I want to do it. If I'm sitting down to consciously manifest, then I'll have a little um what's the word, like not routine, but like a little practice essentially that I'll do, and to get grounded and to get in, or then get into high vibrations and feel really fucking
Mm-hmm.
good, and then start manifesting it. So but other times I just feel like writing it down, and the catch with fucking manifesting is the less you focus on it, the more likely it will come to fruition. So if you're sitting there like, I need 5 grand, I need 5 grand, it's like it will never come to you because you're so fucking hard focused on it. But the other thing that I have just recently, meaning in the last 2 days, gotten
Mm-hmm.
into is EFT tapping. Have you tried this?
Yes, I have, and I'm also gonna train in it. It's part of my course
Amazing.
eventually.
Oh my God, that's such a good idea. Literally, after doing it for the last couple of days, I'm like, oh, I might add this to the services. If I can monetize everything that we can figure out, like, oh, this would be amazing for people. So I've been doing it. I had done it before for a little bit, but wasn't really like conscious with it. And now for me, I really like feeling something in the physical realm, so writing feels good for me, and being able to like tap on my forehead just feels really good to kind of do that. And so literally my biggest thing this week I've been stuck on is Instagram and social media, doing my fucking head in. And I'm sitting here going, I'm stuck. I can't grow it. I'm not getting good engagement. This is shit. Rah, rah, rah. And so I had 2 tapping sessions, and my current manifestation is to get 10K followers on Instagram. So I'm tapping around getting these 10K, 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 10K. And the release I've had in like the last 2 days from this has been so profound. And like I'm really quiet on TikTok. It's not like my biggest platform, but just literally today went up like 30 followers randomly, had videos go off, which they never, I get like 60 views, like nothing. And I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. Like I'm tapping and I'm believing that I'm not stuck. Like I'm flowing. It's effortless. And that seems to be really working for me. So but
Mm-hmm.
it's just, I think your practices change all the time, don't they? What you're
Yeah.
into and if you don't resonate with it, then it's so pointless. Like if journaling doesn't resonate for you, then don't force yourself to fucking do it, because it's not going to feel good. And the whole purpose is to feel good. So it just seems like a bit of a waste. But how about yourself? Like what's your kind of practice?
It's exactly, say people want like cut and dry, what do I do? Tell me what to do, like do this, do that, the next thing. This is what I do, and this is how long it took me to manifest. And, they want like the clear answers, but it really is individual. And I think sometimes journaling is like the thing for me. And especially if it's like my mind is going wild and I can't make sense of it, or in a negative spiral or something, then journaling it, I get usually halfway down the page and I think, oh, this is ridiculous. These feelings I'm having,
Yeah.
like these are silly. And it just like makes sense in my head. But my absolute like go-to is meditation for me.
Amazing.
And it's like you say, it's whatever gets you into that feeling place and raises your vibration. So it's very individual. Some people, visualization doesn't work for them at all. you know, and they're like, I just don't get it. I'm not a very visual person, or meditation, I just have such a big block around it. I mean, that's someone you can work through. But for me,
Yeah.
I literally feel my whole body buzzing, you know, when I meditate. And I'm like, I know I'm vibing high. And
Cool.
it just kind of takes me into that like place where I like remember the power of the universe and the power that I have in my energy as I go through my day, because you have, you know, you're giving off energy all day every day, and I feel like starting my day with that gets me in the right place before I do anything else.
Yeah.
But it's like you say, it's personal, and different things work for different people, so I think it's kind of cool that we both have different things which is our absolute go-to, you know.
And that, but that's the thing, like, you know, we have different things that are our go-to, but we still manifest, we still
Mm-hmm.
call it the same thing. And that's, as you said, it's not cut and dry. It's not do this and do this, you know. I guess like I always, and I think like journaling and meditation are two in the kind of same, because it's mental cobweb clearing. So I
Mm-hmm.
think every manifestation practice has to have a level of cobweb clearing, because it all comes to that mindset. So if you're in a shit mind space, you can't feel good, you can't vibe high. So I think meditation, you know, can go hand in hand with journaling, but also they can be separate and have quite a similar effect. It's just quietening the mind and getting
Mm-hmm.
and actually clearing it out. So it's amazing. Like, yeah, we do really different things, but we're both able to get the same result of manifesting and calling stuff into our life, which is really fucking cool.
Mm-hmm. And journaling is a meditative process too.
Practice.
And
Exactly.
I personally also prefer like guided meditations from like really specific people. Um, because it's almost like having your own personal coach in your ear that's like, you know,
Yeah.
it's like, you're powerful, don't forget it. You're like, yes.
I am, bitch. Like, that's why I love EFT tapping too, because I've got someone tapping to me, like telling me, I'm like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
God, I'm vibing you so fucking hard right now. I'm like, you are in my ears and I love you.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best.
And you're getting that person's energy too in your ears. And like sometimes a certain thing will just hit me that they say, like, recently I probably said it in the podcast at some point, but what you're trying to manifest is also trying to manifest you. And I was like,
Love that.
I
Yes.
love that. It just like hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, oh, I love, you know, I love that. And that just
Amazing.
kind of put things in perspective for me as well.
I love that. It's trying to manifest you too. And it's sitting there on the other side, like, come on, Georgia, like, get into the headspace so I can be delivered to you. Like, come on.
Totally. And it's, I used to think about that when I was trying to manifest my soulmate. Um, because that was a long ass process. Um, but I used to like picture the person, not that they would be sitting visualizing as well, but just like, you know, there's a person out there that wants to be with me too, and it just gives you that bit of hope, and I don't know, nice
Yeah, it
feeling.
does. It is a nice feeling being like, oh, they're on the other side. There. I love that. There was like this thing going around, this meme on Facebook for a while, and it was like, right now, your husband or future wife is sitting like doing something in their life, like doing their thing, and you'll meet them one day and like speak about this. I'm like, that is fucking mental. You know, just think about your partner or your situation or whatever. There's somebody out there, or even friends, you know, friends that you haven't
Mm-hmm.
met yet are out there right now living their life, and you will cross paths eventually. And it's just, oh, it just blows my mind that they're out there doing their thing, we're doing our thing, and eventually we get brought together. It's so fucking cool.
I mean, think about us as an example. Like, little did
Wild.
you know your man would be in Scotland and mine would be in New Mexico, America. Like, what the hell? Like, you could never plan for that shit.
No, literally, I was like actively trying not to find someone overseas so I didn't have to deal with the visa shit. And here we fucking are. I'm like,
Yeah.
you guys, you cheeky shit. Like,
Literally, so true. So we both love to also speak about manifesting money.
oh, God.
So let's dive into that a bit. So I think that money is one of the biggest blocks people have in terms of manifestation. And I'm sure, like me, you've heard all the reasons why people are stuck with money and excuses, shall I say? Just,
Yes,
you
stories.
know, the pandemic being a big one
Yeah.
at the moment, which I understand, of course, if you are not used to like thinking in another way, or just seeing that no matter what's going on in the world you still have control and stuff.
Mm.
um so what do you say to people who are resistant or totally new to manifesting money in particular?
Oh, it's so hard, isn't it? Money is such a wicked topic. I love talking. I can talk about it for fucking years. And oh, sorry, microphone. What do I say to them when they're resistant?
I'm just gonna
I
turn off my
mean,
heater, so sorry.
yeah, toasty. It's toasty here too. It's getting hot in here, girl.
It's drying my mouth out.
I guess like for me, the first thing that I do is just understand where that story comes from, because if we don't understand what is the root cause of the mindset, then we can't like really unblock it. They can't understand it. And that's what I think blows people's mind the most, because you live with this subconscious belief about money that you think is true. And that's the biggest thing about thoughts, is like they're actually not ours, they were impressed upon us. And the thing that I love about money is that like we're exposed to it from such a young age. Like we know about money from such a young fucking age. Like nothing in this world is for free, money doesn't grow on trees. And so just as much as relationships are exposed to us, like I would even say actually money is exposed to us for longer, because we don't learn about like sex and boys and all that kind of stuff till we're a bit older. But right from when you're little, you can trace back to moments of money having value. Like if you dropped money or lost it, your parents would, don't you know, they would freak out about it. So for me, when I'm speaking to clients who do have bad money mindset, it's coming back to like, what is your story about it? And it is hard though, because sometimes I think to myself, and this is a bit of my own limiting belief when I speak about money, because I am a white privileged woman who was born in Australia, and I come from a background, like we didn't have a lot of money, and I would definitely call us by definition poor for a period of our life, but we weren't like in a third world fucking country, you know, we weren't surrounded by really, really bad poverty. So I get a bit resistant sometimes talking about it, particularly publicly, because I acknowledge the fact that I got dealt very good cards this time around on earth, right? I got very, very good cards, but then I have to come back to, okay, but I'm not, for me in my coaching, or who my audiences and who I'm trying to speak to is women who are in a similar experience to my own. You know, I can't speak to women who have had a really fucking rough background. Like I can to a degree, but I can't empathize because I've never been in that scenario. So it is sometimes, and I wonder if you feel the same, like when you're talking, as this little edge of uncertainty because you want to piss people off or rub people off the wrong way. But at the basis of it is that anyone in the world, no matter their circumstances, can manifest, but it comes back to the mindset. It comes back to their fundamental beliefs about money. But if you've been in poverty for your entire fucking life, that mindset is going to be so much harder to shift. So yes, it will be harder for them to manifest, because their fundamental beliefs around money are way, way heavier than what ours are. Even if we have a shit money mindset, it's nothing like that. But so that's what always comes back. What I always come back to is that you have that choice about how you feel about it and your reality every single fucking day when it comes to anything in your life, particularly money. And if you choose to feel a certain way about it, that is the experience that you will continue to call in. And sometimes we do just have to be blunt, particularly like nothing shits me more, nothing fucking pisses me off more than people wanting to invest in you as a coach or invest in your program and go, oh, I'm really poor, I can't afford it. And then I see them on Instagram out getting pissed on the weekend, buying clothes from ASOS, like, and just pissing money away. I'm like, you don't know what poor is. You do not know what broke is. And you probably never actually, like for the majority who say this, right? Because there are definitely people who've been in this scenario. Majority of these people do not know what rock bottom poor is. So don't use that fucking language. Don't use that language to, perpetuate that feeling and that story about yourself. So sometimes I feel like I just really have to crack the whip and people and be like, actually, you're really fucking privileged. If you're sitting there on the internet with me right now, you already have more than 50% of the world has. So like, we're not having a bar of it. And you do have to put your sassy pants on as a coach sometimes and tell people like, well, how do you want to feel about this? You want to feel good? Start fucking acting like, like give them a bit of sassy loving. So yeah, I think that's a long-winded way around that, but I just think when it comes to people who do have it, you are gentle and you are get to that root cause of where this money block is coming from. But at the end of the day, at the basis of anything, your entire experience as a human being in this world is how you decide to perceive it, how you decide to think.
And I think money is a taboo topic still. And when I first started speaking about it as a coach, I was nervous, and I was like, oh, what are people going to think? I'm speaking about money and like making more money, or they going all these things. And then, as you say, that's something you have to work through yourself. But because I never felt like I had a super bad relationship with money, and when I worked on cruise ships and that, like I made really decent money
Good
for like
money,
a
yeah.
19-year-old. I was living my best life, but then like I spent it all.
Yeah,
Um,
just don't know any different. Like, fuck it.
exactly. But you don't know until you start actually doing the work, the stories that have been in your past, and the beliefs that you do have, and the things that you're hearing every day. Once you actually become aware of the way people speak about money, you're like, whoa. Like I heard in books and stuff, the more money, more problems thing. And I was like, I've never really heard anyone say that. And I was like, I don't really get it either. And I literally heard somebody say it yesterday, and I was like,
holy shit, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
so
it's just
catches
all the
you off
time.
guard. It's incredible, and like, and that's the, oh, it's like the majority of the population feel that way about money. The majority, when I did that, like I did a poll on my Instagram just out of curiosity to see, and the majority of people believe that it is a limited resource, and they're like, no, it's not. Not everyone can have it. And you're like, actually, no, everyone can have it. You know, or if I have too much, it means that other people can't have more. And that's like, you know, because Georgia, I think we're quite similar in the sense of we don't really have negative money stories. Like we all have them, but maybe we don't have it as heavier, which is why it's a topic we're so comfortable speaking about.
Hmm.
But like when it comes, oh, I just lost my train of thought for half a second. Money, do 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 do.
I feel
Oh my god,
that.
what was I saying? Oh, where the fuck did my brain just go? Oh my god, what was it? People not. Oh my god, no, I lost
That we
it.
don't have big issues about it. So,
Right. Okay. So, but we will meet, like everyone will meet like a block or a resistance. So, you know, maybe you felt the same way, like in your coaching business, like, okay, so there's one resistance around telling people that we've made a lot of money. But, you know, if we want to coach people to make more money, we must be open about the fact, like, here I manifested 10K this month or whatever it is, whatever our manifestation is. And like, but we have our own limiting beliefs then that we reach, like, there's probably that capacity of, yeah, more money, more problems. And you're like, oh, I'd never really heard that. And now you hear it and you're like, oh, actually, maybe I do worry about that. A huge one for me is like, I can't become a millionaire because imagine the tax I'd have to pay on that. I'm like, you're not even a millionaire yet. Why are you worried about that? Like, and if
yeah.
you have $1 million, you could pay your tax, so it's fine. So
Hmm.
like, yeah, so you meet ceilings and you meet like, and that's like another thing we we're saying, like, this is such a journey. You don't just fix your money mindset. Like you do to a degree, but then new blocks will come up in new areas around money always. And you have to work through them. And some are sticky and hard to work through, and others are just like, oh, easy. I'll just kind of work through that on the spot. But it's
Hmm.
just such an interesting topic. And part of its tabooness is what makes it so fascinating to talk about.
Yeah. And I'm reading that book that you told me to read,
Ah.
Get Rich, Lucky Bitch, because it's by the same
Amazing.
woman. I love her. Um, and she, you know, she's made millions in her business now, but she's still, after every time she reaches a new level, goes back to the beginning and does all the work on her money mindset. And I just love that. And I think I've even seen myself do it where I'm like, okay, I know it now. I know the money mindset stuff, you know,
Yeah.
but at every next level, then you have new things come up that you have to deal with.
New feelings,
And
new limits. You're like, oh, this is weird. Like I thought I dealt with this. You're like, fuck no, I
yeah.
definitely.
And once you start to learn about the universe and manifestation and everything, and realizing that everything is energy, then it's just reminding yourself constantly that money as well is just energy. And something I have to remind myself of also is that the money is coming to you through people. It's not coming directly from Gabby. Oh, can Gabby actually afford this? I don't know if she can afford this, or you know, these things. That's what comes up for me as a coach. And it's realizing that the money is actually just coming through that person to you that you've asked to manifest, and you don't need to personally pin it onto that certain
Love
person or
that.
something.
That's such, I've never heard that one. That's actually such a fucking good point because you do, and particularly if you're trying to, not trying, but like you're coaching and you've got friends or people that you kind of know through association wanting to buy in. Like I obviously love working with my friends. It's fucking great. But I'm way more nervous about sending them their invoice or chasing
Mm-hmm.
them up for payments because I'm like, oh, it's their money. Like I don't ask them. So I love that. That's such a liberating thought. Like it's not their money. It's literally just transferring through them and flowing how it's supposed to flow. That's its purpose, is to flow. So that's such a fucking love that. I'm gonna write that down. That's amazing.
And also that if you are thinking, oh, that person can't afford it or whatever, you're putting your own limiting beliefs onto them. You know,
Exactly.
let
And you
them
know
make up their
what?
own mind.
Yeah, let them figure out what they can and can't afford. Like, and that's probably a huge one during the pandemic is like, oh, can someone afford this during a pandemic? I'm like, well, I'm sitting here like making very good money in a pandemic. Who's to say that they're not? And who am I not to give them the option to buy into something that I know will change their life? Like, it's actually like a disservice for them, for me not to tell them, hey, this is how much the program is if you're interested, and giving them the opportunity to buy in. And like
Mm-hmm.
what they prioritize their money on is so different. We're all so different, aren't we? So you can't make assumptions about what people are prepared to spend money on.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And it's such a true thing that it is an energetic investment too. Like when you're actually financially invested, you're more invested. Whereas like I've definitely seen if I did anything free,
Right.
you know, in the past, there's just not that same commitment, and like you just feel the difference than somebody who's like, I'm committed, I'm like put my money into this and I'm gonna give it my all sort of thing.
It is. It's like a tangible expression of your commitment. And so if you don't have something for free, like, sorry, if you do put something up for free, I'm exactly the same. Anytime I've run a free anything,
Mhm.
like rubbish response, people don't put the commitment, they don't put the fucking effort because they've not handed over something in exchange. It's like no energetic exchange. Like you're
Mhm.
putting out, but they're not giving anything back. So it's uneven. Like in the world of energy, there's a mismatch in there. And so, yeah, it makes
That's
so
so
much
true. Mhm.
sense. Crazy.
Totally. I was going to ask you about starting your own business and stuff, but I guess we've kind of covered it a little bit. But I think it's something that isn't like massively talked about in our kind of age range and stuff. But for me, I just was the same as you. I would do like shitty jobs in between performing jobs and be like, oh, there's got to be more than this. I have more to give the world than this. And I was working at Benefit Cosmetics, just like standing there like every day. And I was like, this can't be life. This can't be what it's all about.
Yeah. So miserable.
Literally. And I was like, I have to start my own thing. And also moving to America was the kick up the arse for that because I can't work in the US. So I was
Yeah.
like, I have to start something myself online. And it's
Nothing
been
like a
so
relocation.
liberating in so many ways, but so challenging in other ways.
Yeah, of course. Like, as I said, like nothing like a relocation to light a fire up your ass,
Yeah,
right? Like, I need money. Like I've got to do something. I can't work legally here. So I'm like, well, we'll figure it out.
literally. So, what would you advise someone who's like thinking or like scared to start their own business or something?
Um, First of all, that like so cheesy, but literally YOLO, like you're only on this planet once, so fucking like make the most of it.
Mhm.
Also, statistically, there's more people creating jobs now than there are people applying for jobs, and I just think that's fucking amazing. So there's more people wanting to live their life, and as you said, like there's just we were not put on this earth to work 9 to 5, miserable, come home more miserable, and like how shit is that feeling the night, like Sunday night, knowing you've got to go to work on Monday and being like, oh, like
Mhm.
that is the worst feeling that a human can fucking honestly feel in relation to their life, like
And why do you
dread.
want to spend your life doing that, you know?
I don't understand it. I just don't understand why. But people get caught up again in that story of I'm too young, or I don't have an idea, or I don't know where to start, or whatever. And for me, like the tips that I will give people is just follow your curiosity. What are you interested in? Because as we said in this podcast, if you hit your passion point, you'll be able to talk about it for fucking ages, and you'll be able to figure out how to market it. You'll be able to figure out how to sell it. Like people. That's why all of our past little things didn't work, right? Because they weren't our passion points. They were like,
Mhm.
oh, maybe it'll make me money, or I'm kind of interested in it, but it wasn't really what we wanted to fucking do. And it takes time to figure that out. So you have to go and do the shit jobs and figure stuff out and go, oh, I tried selling homewares and that didn't work out, or whatever you decided to do. And
Literally.
literally, that's literally what I did. I was like, I sold fucking travel prints on homewares and they flopped. They were fucking awful. But I learned that experience. But I think like, yeah, you only live once, and B, like if I was to suggest someone to start a business and they're not really sure like where to start in service based, not product based, because in service based, there's no real output. Like there's not a lot of like money being put into that. Like you might have to
Mhm.
educate yourself, but you're never going to lose out on that. Whereas if you decide to do a product based business, like if it doesn't go well, then you're financially a bit out of whack for it. So that's like always my suggestion is try, like if you can start in somewhere that's more of a service base, like VAing or,
Mhm.
personal assisting, like in real life or whatever, is a great way just to get a taste as well. Because I think like some people say that they really want to start a business, but they get into it and they have to self-manage and they're like, actually, I really don't want to do this. Like I want a boss,
Mhm.
so, and that's fine. Like, and we
You just
need
don't know until you
you don't
try.
know. You don't fucking know. Like I know lots of people who think that they want to start businesses, but they don't have the drive to do it. It's actually not that they want a business. They want flexibility in work. They want more money for what they do. They want to do
Mhm.
something they enjoy. So I think people can sometimes put a band-aid over their lives and go, I'll just start a business. And it's like, well, are you actually prepared to work double the amount of hours you would in a normal job? Are you prepared for your whole life to be this? Are you prepared
Mhm.
to not know when to switch off because you are your fucking job?
And
Like,
to
and you
self motivate because you're your
self
only person to answer to. That's the hardest thing
Exactly.
sometimes.
It is. I think that's the number one most difficult thing about being a business, and that it all falls on you. There is
Mhm.
no one to blame it on. Like if you don't feel like showing up on social media for a week, that's it, like you're not going to be able to call in clients that week, technically, like because you're not showing up in your business. And it is that motivation to then go, all right, I've got to pull myself out and I need to show up today, and I've got to, set myself some goals or KPIs. And that's really, really fucking hard to self motivate. And not everyone is built that way. And
Mhm.
that's okay. That's fine. It's great, like because we've got people who maybe, you know, want to work in businesses where they are under a leader and they thrive in that environment. And that's an amazing thing to have. And I just think, you know, like obviously we're not driven that way, doesn't really interest us. But, you know, the last thing that if somebody asks me like, oh, I really want to start a business, is like, why do you want to start a business?
You
What is
have
it
to have a
about?
big enough why.
The why has to be fucking solid because it's going to
Mm.
get you through doubt. It's going to get you through dry spells. It's going to get you through financial shit, you know, like, and if they are, and they're like, yeah, I have this really, you know, strong passion. It's like, okay, cool. Well, how can we get you started? And it's just baby steps, you know, not ripping the Band-Aid straight away. It's a huge one too. People like just quit the job in a flourish and then it will just work out. You're like, oh, not if you've not put any practical steps in the background
Yeah.
first. Like you got to do some stuff. So yeah, that's probably like my biggest tip is why
Mm-hmm.
do you do it? And if it is flexibility, financial freedom, or, you know, whatever it is, like, can you find that in a job and would that feel better for you? And suss it out and try it. And at least if you do a service-based you know, job on your own, you're not investing any money, so you're not really losing out on it. It's like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
did the experience and it didn't work out. Whereas when I tried the homewares thing, fucking so random, but put a lot of money into that and it flopped. I'm like, oh shit, you know, that was not a great idea. So service based is a great way to start, I think.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
everyone has so many skills and talents, you know, if they just really think about it for a minute, it can be anything. And I seen this video on TikTok, which I freaking loved. And it was this girl who she was going for picnics with her friend in the pandemic and her wine kept going warm. Did you see it?
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
amazing.
And
Oh
she
my
was
God.
like, I'm going to make a wine tumbler that keeps my wine cold and it holds a full bottle of wine and it just looks
Brilliant.
inconspicuous in the park. And now she's made like so much from it. Like her business just taken off because she just had this random idea that people would think, oh, well, you know, and just disregard it. But she
What
was
do
like,
you know?
you know, maybe I could do something with this. And it can be something that you can think is so silly, but if it can solve a problem for somebody else, I know that's product based, but I just love that video.
Yeah. I love that video too. I was like, fucking get it, girl. And that's like probably the best thing about this pandemic is seeing so many people just give shit a go now. Cause like, fuck it. Like, and realize, oh, I've had this dream for, same with me in the course. I'm like, I had this dream forever running a photography course. I'm like, well, fucking may as well do it. I just
Mm-hmm.
love seeing people thrive through the pandemic and start businesses. And that comes back to the money mindset thing of like, oh, you can't make money in a pandemic. Like, look at all of these amazing businesses that have taken off because someone just took the fucking leap of faith and give it a go. And have you read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert?
Oh, I've started it a long time ago, actually, but I haven't finished it.
Oh my God. So there's this great, like the biggest takeaway I took from that is that like ideas, right? Imagine ideas as like these kind of like floating balls of energy out in the world. And an idea will attach to a host, you know, attached to us. So you think, oh, I want to make wine coolers, you know, this is my idea. And ideas will hang around in hope that you will action them. But if you don't, they will leave you and they will go to somebody else. And then you know, like sometimes you think, oh, I've got this really great idea. You don't implement it. And then you see someone else do it and you go, I had that fucking idea. It's like, yeah, you
Literally.
had the idea, but you didn't do anything with it. So the idea fucked off and went to somebody else.
Yeah.
Like,
Feel like
and
she's
that
not listening.
exactly. She's not listening. It's not going to hang around. Like it's going to go fucking do something where it gets its purpose in life is to be put into action. So why would it hang around in a host that doesn't want to do something? So like, and for the most part, like what have you got to lose? You know, you've got more to lose out on not following a little funny little niggle that makes you feel kind of excited and you want to try it. And that's like, isn't that so funny as well? They're usually so quiet and they're
Mm.
on a fly moment. You're like, oh, that was a thing. And you've got like a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes to go, oh, maybe I'll give this a go.
Mm.
Maybe I'll try it, or to let it just disappear into the ether and never become a thing. So they're so funny little ideas. I love visualizing them as these little like
Bobbing
beings.
around.
Yeah, bobbing around in the air, waiting to attach to somebody. It's so fucking cool.
Totally. And like in human design, actually, like there's different ways that ideas come to energy types and stuff. And um, it says about having the idea and then working out if it's an idea that you are meant to do and if it's aligned to you in your life right now. And to just put it out to the universe and be like, okay, give me a sign that I should act upon this idea, and just giving it a couple days. And you know, you might get somebody saying, oh, I offer these services or something that they could help you bring that idea to fruition or something. And like, and then you just have to do it. You just have to fucking do it.
Fine. The universe is like, yeah, bitch. Like this is for you. It's happening. Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. I'll have to I'm so keen to look into human design more. It sounds so cool. Like so like from what you're saying, you just like taken so
Mm-hmm.
much away from it. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, that's like classic me. I get super passionate about something. I'm
Yeah,
gonna do the next
100%.
podcast on it actually, just like
Oh, I can't
starting
wait to
to talk about it.
listen.
So last question. Why do you think investing in coaching is so important?
It
I
is
think it's still
literally,
not a huge thing in the UK,
yeah,
particularly. And I think there's quite a big misconception with it. I definitely thought before, I thought you had to be at rock bottom, like your life had to be an absolute shit show before you got a coach, you know?
yeah,
It's
like,
just not the case.
yeah, it is definitely. It's so funny moving from Australia to here because coaching is such like, I mean, it's not huge. Like, not everyone does it, but I definitely say it's less taboo in Australia than it is in the UK. And I find like
Mm-hmm.
the general mindset of people in the UK is very negative. Like, I don't know, I get that energy in the UK, and it's really interesting to kind of partake in. I've had people from the UK who are in the wellness industry tell me that, like, it's not like Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Australia's very high vibe, and but again, that's a story, isn't it? Back to that whole thing, that's a story. But because everyone I've attracted since I've come here has all been beautiful, high vibe people. But I think, yeah, it's like, as you said, like, you don't have to hit rock bottom to need coach. Like, I didn't hit rock bottom. I was just a bit lost and a bit kind
Mm-hmm.
of, I don't know where I'm going. But the best money that I've ever invested is in coaching. The best money I've ever invested. Even if I only took one thing away from that coach or that book or that seminar, that one thing is going to change my life for the better. And why the fuck would I not want that? And we invest so much money, and I wouldn't even call it investing, we spend so much money on rubbish in our lives. And the thing that's so important, like, at the end of the day, the only person that you have to fucking to speak you're the only person you have to speak to at the end of your days is you. The only person you're responsible for is you at the end of the day. And so you want to look back on your life and go, I could have invested in myself to enhance my experience on earth and being the best fucking shiniest human I can be. Well, I need assistance in doing that. Like, coaches have something that you do not have. And even just being in there, as we were saying, being in a coach's energy is so infectious, and it inspires you to want to be better. It's like you can feel these little, like, beings come out of energetic people, and you're like, oh, I feel so good after I've seen them. The vibrations are beautiful, and paying to be in that experience is so much, again, more powerful than just rocking up for the pep talks every day, listening to the
Mm-hmm.
podcast. It's beautiful, and we put that content out there because we know that not everyone is ready to invest just now. But the power in having someone be your fucking cheerleader, having somebody in your corner being like, you fucking got this, someone to hold you accountable every week for, an 8 to 12 week period. There's just nothing more invigorating. There's nothing more powerful than
Mm-hmm.
knowing that somebody believes in you and, like, just has so much faith in you and respects that you invested in them and you respect them that they invested in you. It's this beautiful mutual experience with people. So yeah, I think, like, yeah, you don't have to hit rock bottom. But if you're just a bit lost and a bit confused, like, what have you got to lose by just having somebody who's in a position that you want to be in? I think that's the best thing when you're investing in a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Look at them. What is it about them that you want? Are they living their dream life in fucking America? Are they living their dream life in Scotland? Are they making the dollars? Have they set up their own business? There's no point in investing in a coach that's doing something that's not really, where you want to be in your life. So every time I've invested in a coach, I'm like, they have something that I want. I want to pay them to find out how they did it. You
Totally.
know, isn't it? It's just so powerful to look at what they've got and be like, fucking hell. Like, my coach that I have now, she had I was listening to her podcast and I was sitting on the fence from investing in her. As we all sit on the fence
Mm-hmm.
still, right? I'm sitting on the fence. I'm like, I want to invest in it. It's like such a massive financial investment. And she had this podcast and she just said something that, like, spoke to me. And I pulled my car over, messaged her. I'm like, I'm ready. Let's just fucking do it.
Yes.
We're going to invest right now, because she was in a position that I wanted to be in. Her business was thriving. She's a fucking millionaire. I'm like, that is where I want to be. So for me to expand myself to be at that level, I must invest in her to receive that energy. And I respect that energy too. So I think, like, if anyone's sitting on the fence, like, about you or about me or about any fucking coach, right? Any fucking coach, if you are sitting there on the fence, the only thing is holding you back is money, is think about what you have to gain, not what you're going to spend. Who are you on the other side of that? Who are
Mm-hmm.
you? What woman or man is on the other side of that 8 weeks, and who are they going to be and show up as in the world? And, like, I think, like, now the person I am, if I was to go back to, like, when I sat down with that first coach and not invest the, like, $50, which was her beginning rates, bless her, like, oh my God, who would I be right now? Like, I would not be the woman I am today. And I would not trade that for the fucking world. I'd pay millions to be the person that I am today. So you have to focus on who it is you're going to be, not who you are right now. Like, what does future Georgia do? What does future Gabby do? She invests the
Mm-hmm.
fucking money because she knows it's going to be worth it. There's so much power, I feel, in that.
Exactly. You're so right. And I think because it's a intangible thing, right? You're not putting money in to get a car or whatever it might be. It's such a foreign thing to people, and to like invest in you as a person, but you're the person you're going to spend your whole damn life with. And like
Exactly.
from that moment of, again, my first coach, like that changed the whole trajectory of my life. I wouldn't be coaching myself. I didn't know it was possible for me to make like $1 million. I didn't even know that was a thing that was possible for me in life.
Mm.
And I think, like you said, that is invaluable. Like to have your whole life change.
In like a fucking conversation with someone.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't, oh yeah, you literally wouldn't trade it. You would not trade that moment for the world, because it changed, literally changed it. And I think people don't realize how much they can fucking change their
Yeah.
life. Like that's the crazy, the power in it. They think, oh, everyone else, but not me. But you are only one decision away at any given point to changing your entire fucking life. And there's so much power in that. And being reminded of that by a coach is just like the most incredible, most like powerful fucking thing that you can ever do. Like, oh, so worth the
Mm-hmm.
investment. Always worth the
And I think
investment.
like also I'm like, coaches are doing this for a reason because they have done it, they've lived through it, they are living through it, and they just want to share that with the world. Like that's what happened for me. I was like, oh my god, all these things are possible. I need people to know about this. I need people to stop living small shitty lives, and I'm going to do what I can for that. It's not just about starting as a coach because you're like, oh yeah, that sounds like an all right job.
Yeah,
You're
that's
like,
right.
you're doing it because like it's possible, and that's why you're putting that service out there.
Exactly. What a gift to give people. Like, it's such a beautiful thing to witness people change their lives. And, if you could, in your whole coaching experience, like only change one person's life, that's a powerful fucking thing to do as a coach. And it's just, it is so, and I think, not everyone is built for it. Not everyone is
Mm-hmm.
built to coach 100%. Like you have to have so much passion and to feel lifted up, seeing others thrive, be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, look at her go, look at her make that money, look at her find that man or leave that job or whatever. It's just the most like empowering thing to be a coach, to be able to witness that. And it is so frustrating because you meet people and you're like, because there's that boundary for us being like, you must pay me for this because I have done it, I've invested in me, so you must invest in me too, and you're going to have a better exchange because there's stuff going around. But how frustrating it is as a coach when you're like, I